Let's talk about Madison, Wisconsin, because Madison, Wisconsin is in Dane County, Wisconsin. And earlier this month, the Dane County Board, like the elected officials who run the county, they had a meeting. And I want to show you a proposal they were considering here. Check this out. This is a proposal to give a $231,000 grant to a group called Porchlight for calendar year 2024. What is Porchlight? Porchlight is basically a nonprofit organization that works to help the homeless. They provide them with shelters and food and access to telehealth and a lot more. And this is a way to deal with unhoused people in the community. I mean, that's wonderful. That's the sort of thing you want your local community to be assisting with. And they have a nonprofit group that seems to be doing a really good job of it. So they considered and voted to give this large grant to a group called Porchlight. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, there are like 24 members of the Dane County Board, and the proposal to give the money to Porchlight passed almost unanimously. Everyone voted for it except for one dude. And that one dude's name is Jeff Weigand. And he got up and he basically said, my problem is not that Porchlight is assisting the homeless. That's all well and good. But they're putting a bandage on the situation. They're taking care of like the end of the line. We need to be dealing with the root cause of homelessness. And unfortunately, I think it's a waste of money, Jeff Weigand said, if we're not using our resources to address the root causes of homelessness. That's what we ought to be doing. That's why he decided to vote against this proposal. He said, for every dollar that we invest in providing someone a temporary place to sleep, we ought to be investing an equal amount or putting an equal amount of energy towards finding solutions toward the root cause. Which, okay, I guess that makes sense. But also, you still got to deal with what's happening in the here and now. Like, you can't always go back in time to figure out what the root cause is and solve that. But anyway, after he says this and goes around in circles for a while, another member of the county board, his name is Anthony Gray, he gets up and he basically says, I'm paraphrasing, he's like, why are you beating around the bush here? What do you think is the root cause of homelessness that we ought to be tackling instead? And Weigand gets back up, and you knew he was ready for this question, because I'm going to show you video. He has this big ass smile on his face, like he's been preparing for this moment his entire life. And I'm going to show you what he says. So again, this is what Jeff Weigand says is the root cause of homelessness.
Since you asked, you'll get an answer.
Thank you.
Sin is the root cause. Please record it. Please record it. It is being recorded. Thank you. Sin is the root cause. When God created this world, there was no sin. He created a perfect world. Man ruined that by sinning. And we've seen the depravity and the decline of our world ever since then. So when we talk about the root cause, if you really want to go back to why we have mental health issues, to why we have greed, to why we have people being mean to other people, it's sin. And until we address that issue, we're going to continue to see this issue of homelessness and a whole slate of other issues in our society. So thank you for asking the question.
I'm sorry if the volume was low on that, but basically you heard what he said. He said sin is the problem that we need to tackle if we actually want to solve homelessness. It's not just a pointless answer. That is a completely impractical answer. And by the way, I can't go back and pause it, but you should, if you get a chance to go back and see that video, the lady sitting right behind Jeff Weigand had this look on her face after he sat down of like, what the hell are you talking about? But okay, going back to his message there, let's take a second to consider what if he's right. Even if you believe in the biblical story, there's literally no way to resolve the issue. What are you going to do to fix sin? What are you going to do? Go back in a time machine and force Eve to uneat a piece of fruit? Like, what does he want? Presumably, Weigand wants taxpayer dollars spent on converting people to Christianity rather than helping them with any of their pressing needs. Not only would that be illegal, the board would be turning its back on the people in their community who actually need help, which is like the one job they were all elected to do. So that's dumb to begin with. But let's say they did put money toward fixing sin. What should they do in the meantime when it comes to assisting people with mental health struggles or homelessness or being mean, whatever he said there? Like, nothing if people like Weigand had his way, because they've done enough. They're addressing the root cause. Is a switch going to magically flip on after 1 week of the sin initiative and solve all the problems? No, of course not. The most Christian states in America, check this out. The most Christian states in America are also the ones, you could see the list there. Alabama has the most Christians, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Dakota, Tennessee. These are all states that have among the highest gun death rates, the worst health care, the least formal education. I mean, more Jesus has never been a good solution to anything. And then Weigand is also making this crass and misguided assumption that the unhoused people who could benefit from Porchlight's generosity are struggling because of sin, as if they brought this upon themselves. Because the sad truth about homelessness is that it's almost never the result of a personal failure. It's the result of larger systemic problems. Like, what's the reason people are homeless? It's because they don't have homes. So maybe we should invest in affordable housing. Maybe we should make sure they have a mental health care, access to that. Maybe we should give them a place to go while they are struggling to recover and get back on their feet. Like, at the local level, giving a grant to a nonprofit group that helps the homeless, that is a really important way to address the concerns. Building affordable housing, making sure social workers are available for them, that's another way you could help the homeless. But elected officials have an obligation to use the resources they have to help the people who need it. They should be basing their decisions on data. For a county supervisor to pretend that a lack of religion, his religion, is the biggest problem everyone faces is basically an admission that this guy has no business in elected office. He should be wasting a church's time, not wasting a seat that could go to someone who actually cares about the people in Dane County. So there's a local news site, Madison 365, and they followed up with Weigand about all this. They basically asked him, hey, explain yourself. Like, what does your church do to help people, to help the poor and the hungry and the needy? And here's what he told them. He cited his own church, which he said offers food, clothing, and housing assistance, as well as mentorship and counseling. That's very nice. He declined to name the church, which is interesting because now no one can go and follow up and see if they actually do this shit. That's the model I think works the best, because the church individuals, people one-on-one, can determine the difference between someone that wants to continue to make poor decisions and someone that doesn't, someone that truly wants to turn their life around. I'm going to stop there for a second. What's the implication of that line? He is saying there are some people that want to get help, by which he means they want Jesus. They're willing to say that. And other people who apparently, if you don't want to play along with his religious cosplay or whatever, you just don't want help. You just want to be homeless. It's your fault now. Like, it's so disgusting what he's saying. Then he goes on to say, he said, no one the church helps has to believe in God. They'll help anybody, but they do have to attend a Bible study. If we're going to physically give you help, we're going to do a Bible study with you. You don't have to believe it. You can sit there and check the box, but we are going to, because we believe that's the true solution. We're also not going to turn someone away if they have a physical need. If you have a physical need, come on in. We just ask you to sit through this Bible study. If you don't want to listen, that's fine. Oh my God. So if there was someone who was starving, someone who is freezing, needs a place to go, Madison, Wisconsin gets cold. And if they need help and they went to this guy's church, the church would say, okay, fine, we would love to help you. Just come to the Bible study. And if you're like, don't give a shit about the Bible, just need food or warmth, they would say, oh, too bad for you, go away. That's how his church operates because apparently they're the moral ones here. Like, absolutely a disgusting way that church operates. That's pathetic. It's spiritual coercion. Like, look, if people don't want to waste their time in Bible study, you should still help them. Weigand and his church say, we won't help those people. Forget them. We would rather have them lie to us and say, yeah, I went through Bible study and just had my, I don't know, earpods. They don't have earpods. But like, I sat through it and it was great. Now give me food. They would rather be lied to that way than just have someone say, I'm not religious or I'm not your religion. Can you just help me? They don't want to help that person. Like, these people are horrible. So I mentioned that there was another supervisor, Anthony Gray, the guy who's like, why are you beating around the bush? Tell us what you mean by the root cause of sin. The newspaper also asked that guy, hey, what do you think about the answer you got? And check out what Anthony Gray said after that. Here's his response. It wasn't until the fourth or fifth time that it dawned on me what he was actually saying, Gray said. Once I figured it out, I realized how vile and disgusting it was to blame homelessness on the unhoused. I knew that if I opened the door for him, he would stop talking in dog whistles and speak truth. Like, beautiful. The guy knew exactly how to get Weigand to say something dumb. Gray, who calls himself a practicing Episcopalian, said he disagrees with Weigand's view of both sin and the causes of homelessness. The reason people are homeless is because they don't have homes, he said. The reason people have mental illness is because they are sick. Blaming the victim is the coward's way out. I love that guy. He's amazing. And that's spot on. The newspaper also spoke to Dana Pelabon, who is another supervisor there, who also said Weigand's remarks contain a racial element to them, which is also true because she said many of the unhoused people in Dane County are Black. And if you want to talk about root causes for homelessness and racism, it would not be hard to find a religious component there either. And here's what she said. We know homelessness disproportionately affects Black people. If he really wants to talk about the root causes, if he wants to talk about sin, then he needs to go back in history and look at the root causes of how it is that Black folks are treated and the sins that were perpetrated against us. Like, damn. Yes, absolutely right. Like, you can't talk about homelessness and why people live in poverty and all of that without talking about like racism and mental health and the lack of care we give people with mental health issues and all of that. The fact is, if Weigand got what he wanted on the Dane County Board, people who are suffering in their community would continue to suffer. All while he smirks with his shit-eating grin at their misery, just like Jesus taught him to do, apparently. Like, the good news here is that everyone else beside him on that board, they had a heart, and they voted to do the right thing, and they voted in favor of the grant. But by the way, it's not the first time this has happened, apparently. Jeff Weigand, last year, I should say, Dane County officials voted to make their county a sanctuary for trans and non-binary people. Weigand was the only supervisor to vote against that as well. And I should say, I don't want to knock all religious people here either, because after he said his stupid comment, a bunch of religious leaders in the community wrote an open letter that was also published in the newspaper. And I want to show you this little bit of what they said as well. This is from like a couple dozen religious leaders in the community. Supervisor Weigand, we write to you to call on you to be more careful with your words concerning the communities oppressed and marginalized. It has come to our collective attention that you indicated in your official capacity that sin is the root cause of homelessness. Not only is this statement deeply hurtful and divisive in our community, it is simply wrong and certainly contradicts the teachings of Jesus Christ. And they go on to say, Jesus did not see unhoused people as sinful and problematic. Rather, he continually characterizes theologies like yours that infer that only bad and sinful people are unhoused as problematic. And just check out all these people signing their name. They're all pastors, ministers at local churches. Good for them. I really appreciate the fact that they're speaking out against this guy. I do want to say one last thing about this, which is Jeff Weigand, the guy you just saw, he just won re-election earlier this month in a local election to keep his seat on the board. He just fended off a challenger. There's our buddy right there. Where did he go? Right there. There he is. He just won that seat. And I was trying to wonder, like, how many votes did he win by? Check this out, because on the local election that took place earlier this month, it was 2 people on the ballot for his seat. April 2nd, 2024 was the election. And look at these numbers. Jeff Weigand won with 1,576 votes. His challenger had 1,420. That is a difference of 156 votes. That's how much this guy won by. And in 2022, when he was running for the first time officially, look at this. 1,231 to 1,198. He won by 33 votes the first time he ran for office, which is to say, like, the thing about elections in general is most people are apathetic. They don't pay attention. They really don't pay attention to local races. You have to imagine it should not have been that hard. If people actually knew how messed up this guy was, it should not be hard to unseat him. And again, I'm not blaming his opponents. I'm sure they did all they could. But these races, local races, are won and lost by sometimes hundreds of votes, if that. They are winnable races for whichever side can get out their side. Like, my goodness, I hope that happens in November and, like, the people on the progressive side are not sitting home because of whatever they're mad about. You have to get out and vote, because that's the sort of thing that pisses me off more than anything. I know this is just one voice on a board full of dozens of people, but again, there were other people that anyone would be better than this guy, but he got the handful of votes more that he needed. I think it's every 2 years you get elected to this board. I could be wrong about that. But there you go. Don't vote for Christian nationalists at any level, or you're going to end up with faith-based buffoons making decisions that affect everyone. And they have shown repeatedly at the local level, at the federal level, they are incapable of handling that responsibility. Okay. Going to pause there for a bit. Thanks for that donation. As a social worker and mental health professional for the state of Washington, people like this make me absolutely sick. I believe you. I'm right there with you. I'm sure social workers who work with people who are unhoused understand a lot more about the root causes of homelessness, and mental health professionals as well. I imagine people who are religious but actually wise about this stuff and well versed in these issues, they would be saying the same thing. It's disgusting to see what guys like our friend over here, Weigand, says. So thank you for doing what you do. God couldn't even deal with sin, and now you want the government to solve it? Oh, brother. Yeah, if sin is a problem, I mean, go pray for that to be fixed. You don't need a grant for that. In the meantime, use the grant to help people. Why is he against that? Because he's not a good person. What else we got? That was the point of the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? The people beat that guy and left him on the road because he was a sinner. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure if I know the Good Samaritan story, it stops right there and nothing else happens. No one helps him. They beat up sinners and leave them there. That's the story of the Bible. Nothing else comes of it. Although it's not always the case, a good majority of homelessness has some kind of underlying mental health issue that's not being adequately addressed. I mean, yes, exactly. And that's why you want local officials, city officials, county officials to do what they can to make sure mental health care is available to people who need it, and it's not going to bankrupt them. And that if they are unhoused, you want to help get the unhoused off the street, give them a safe place to go and stay so that they can get back up on their feet. And not all Christian faiths are equal. I get assistance from one and they have not preached to me once. I can only afford housing because of them. Well, thank you for sharing that. And yes, you are absolutely right. That guy's church that said, yeah, we'll help you, but only if you sit through Bible study, which is a horrible thing to say or do. That is not what a lot of religious ministries do. They will say, no, we are here to help you. We're not asking you questions. You don't have to profess your faith to us. You don't have to come for a service or anything like that. We're going to do what we have to do because that's what our God commands us to do. Like, you know what? Disagree with you on the religion thing, but fine, go do that. That's the way to do it. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. How long is the seat held for? Zoe, I think it's 2 years. At least that's what I could tell from the election pages. But 2 years at least. People can vote this guy out. I hope they do. I'm 100% sure people like Trump trying to deny black people's rights has absolutely nothing to do with that. Are you saying that guys like Jeff Weigand are basically taking a page from Trump because of not so subtle racist beliefs? It's possible. I think guys like Jeff Weigand, they don't consider themselves racist, but then when you see how they act and what they do, they are. Like, you don't need to wear the white hood to be racist. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of people that mistakenly think unless you actually come out and say racist stuff, you can't be racist. And guys like Weigand show, no, you just don't get it. You are racist, but you can't see it because you're not looking deep enough. You know what I mean? So yes.